We are back with Zane Williams. He is the band leader of The Wilder Blue. It's a group that released their second album, second self-titled album. You were originally Hill Country, so that's well, incredible in its own way. The song I just played is The Old Guitar Picker, um, and there were a couple of philosophies mentioned in the song. If it sounds good, then it is. Play it because you can. How much do those philosophies come into play when you're writing music?
I mean, if it sounds good, then it is. I mean, that's kind of my motto when we're in the studio. I'm not big on doing things just because it's what's popular. I'm also not big on doing something just because it's never been done before. You know what I mean? I just I just feel like my goal when putting together the band was to have five exceptionally talented individuals. Obviously, we're each our own person with our own musical tastes and history. And I just want each person to sort of do what they dig and do what they do best. And then, however, the five of us sound together doing that, that's our sound. And so far, we're two records into that journey and figuring out what that sounds like. And it's kind of all over the map. We got a little bit of bluegrass, we got a little bit of country, we got a little bit of acoustic rock, or we that sort of that 70s vocal band genre that isn't around anymore. But we're all fans of the Eagles, but also there were a lot of them at that time, the Doobie Brothers and the Marshall Tucker Band, and I don't know, there were so many at the time that had all these harmonies, and we've got a little bit of that going on. So yeah, we basically try to make music that makes us happy and that we think is cool, and then we go try to find people who dig it.
Yeah, after spending so many years as a solo artist, what made you go into a band?
Well, I had kind of reached a point where I was writing all the songs. I was self-producing some of my CDs, and it just felt like I was doing it all myself, and that I'd gotten kind of as good as I could get doing it all myself. And I read some things that inspired me to trying to keep growing and get even better. Bruce Springsteen's autobiography, Born to Run, was very inspiring. He was always on a mission to make not just good music, but like voice of a generation. Like, music was sacred to him. So it's like he wanted to make something that was as good as what his heroes made. And he basically was willing to do whatever it took to follow that muse. I also read just another random. I need to look up what book this was. I didn't even read the book. I just read the jacket. It was at my uncle's house on the coffee table, and basically the premise of the book was, instead of chasing whatever marketing trend there is and spending all kinds of money on marketing, maybe you should spend a bunch of time just trying to make your core product 10% better. And that kind of made me think, those two things together, the Bruce Springsteen thing, the idea of how do I make my music 10% better, especially when I'm writing all the songs and singing. There's sort of only so much I can do. My main insight was I could get better by combining with other people, and with the Bruce Springsteen thing, I felt like I could shoot for a more iconic sound with 5-part harmonies. And then there's a band down in Texas, the Randy Rogers Band, And Randy writes a lot of the songs, and he's the only lead singer, but it's an even split band. Like they're all equal owners of it. And one day I was on Parker McCullum's tour bus. Randy was managing him at the time. And Randy was saying to Parker that the best part of doing music was the brotherhood that he had experienced in his band. The Randy Rogers band has been together for almost 20 years now. And they've been through a lot together. It's been the same lineup. And Randy was just saying to Parker that that's the best thing that he's experienced, not the money, not the attention, not the anything else, but the brotherhood. So that was another thing that factored into my thing as I was sitting there listening, because as a solo act, I had sidemen in my band, and obviously I was friends with all of them, but they would kind of come and go, and if they got a better paying gig, they would go to that, or some of them they had to take a day job or whatever, and so I sort of had a rotating group of guys, and the idea of having a group of guys that were all in it together for the long haul appealed to me.
So back to the old guitar picker. What are some of the things that you've learned from older musicians? I guess I know you learned the brotherhood thing from Randy. I know you learned about trying to be more iconic from Bruce. Um, are there any old guitar pickers around Texas that you learned a lot from?
Um, most most of them, it was just through listening to their music or watching interviews on YouTube or whatever. I live in McKinney, so I there's a few around here that I've been able to hang out with. Some who've showed me just a few licks here and there, but the main thing that I feel like I've learned from older, like successful musicians that I've run into is just um, how hard they work on their craft. Like I just feel like, um, especially back those older guys when they were growing up. I mean, there was no TikTok. There was no. Uh, well, there wasn't any YouTube either. They couldn't just look up lessons, and so anyway, the point is, I think a lot of those guys, they spent a lot of time practicing their guitar because there wasn't much else to do. They also did a lot of gigs. Like I read Charlie Daniels' autobiography as well, and both he and Bruce did these things where they would play 6 nights a week, and they would do that for like months. You know what I mean? So they were playing so much, and so when you practice that much and play that much, it's no surprise that they got so good. And I think you know that's something for me that I did not do that in my 20s. I sort of bummed around and I did solo shows, but I didn't try near as hard as those guys did, and I didn't immerse myself in music near as much as they did. So I'm trying as best I can to do that now, which is hard to do with a wife and kids and a family, and as an independent band, I wear all the hats. I work on the bus. I fulfill the merchandise orders. I design the hats. I designed the logo and all this other stuff. So it's hard for me to immerse myself in music as much as those guys did, but um, I hope to get there someday. So I'm still learning for sure, but which makes it fun. I definitely don't feel like I've peaked.
Well, if we're going to go into all the industry stuff, in 2013 you put out a song called Overnight Success.
Yeah.
Um, and at the end, you say, why don't you just go try out for American Idol or something? Um, are you glad that you did things the hard way described in the song and not tried to go for something like that?
I am thankful for where I've ended up. Yes. The thing is, when I was young, I tried it all. I mean, I tried out for Nashville Star. I moved to Nashville in '99. I pitched my songs around. I think just never. It is true that I was not really ever willing to compromise who I was exactly, and I just sort of was who I was, and it ended up not being a good fit. But it's not because I didn't try. It's just because it wasn't a good fit, and I wasn't willing to change who I was. So after about 9 years of that, I moved back to Texas, and discovered the Texas music scene. I put together my first band when I was 30, 31 or 32, started playing the Texas honky tonks. And then I put together this band when I was 40. So it's been a long road to get to where I am. But the good news is it's fresh, it's exciting, it's something I've never done before. We're having a lot of fun. It was kind of fun to completely start over with a completely new set list, right? So I had, as Zane Williams, I had 7 albums, and I had sort of some hits that people recognize down here in Texas, and I had my whole show planned out. And with the Wilder Blue, we just started from scratch. You know, we do 1 or 2 of those old songs as encores sometimes, but basically we started with all new music. So that was a fun challenge as a songwriter. And I basically feel like now with this band, we're poised to get into the territory of really the best of all worlds, which is where you actually are having some commercial success, but it's all on your own terms, making music that you love with people that you enjoy being around. I mean, that's the best that you could hope for. And yeah, we're definitely doing the music part, and we enjoy hanging out. So if we ever achieve a little bit more commercial success than we have now, then I think we'll be no complaints.
Well, at the end of all of my interviews, besides, thanking the guests for coming on, I like to have them pick a song.
Okay.
And I give them a category. Sometimes, I pre-write it from the album. Um, Sometimes I, just make it up on the spot based on the interview. And I think that's what I'm going to do with you right now.
Okay.
Why don't you pick a Springsteen song?
Springsteen song. Yes. Well, that, let me look it up to help jog my memory. Because, see, I was not really that big of a Springsteen fan when I read before I read the autobiography. Like, I didn't grow up listening to him. And so I kept pausing the autobiography to go like listen to the album that he was referring to, because he would talk about everything they went through to record it and everything. My favorite Bruce stuff, he really is a great songwriter. He's got a different style than sort of what I do. It's more, I feel like, figurative, and you kind of have to like dig into it to figure out what it actually means. But I'm gonna go with I'm on Fire. There's a band down here in Texas that I've heard that song covered by a few different groups. There's a guy down here in Texas, just kind of a local guy, that does a killer job, I think, named Jared Medulla. But that it's like someone took a knife, baby, edgy and dull, and cut a 6-inch valley through the middle of my skull. I mean, that's he's got away with words, that Bruce. That's the thing, is like a great song has great lyrics and a great melody and a great groove, and he's good at doing all 3.
Well, I think my favorite Bruce song is "Ghost of Tom Joad."
Okay. See, I'm not familiar with that one.
Well,
I tell you, I grew up under a rock. My dad is a French professor who listens to classical music only, no popular music at all. And then my mom is a math professor, and she just listened to basically easy listening, like Gloria Estefan and Michael Bolton, and and some Christian, like contemporary Christian stuff, like Amy Grant stuff. So, and I grew up, pretty sheltered, and also just running around a lot, around outside a lot in the woods, and playing soccer and stuff. And I didn't really listen to any music but my parents' music until I was 16 or 17. And then I kind of got into 90s country. But anyway, yeah. So
Well,
I'm gonna have to check that one out. The Ghost of Tom Joad, you said?
mm-hmm. Well, the listeners on here aren't gonna have to wait too much because on the radio I'll play it. On YouTube I will put it in the playlist, and well, you check that one out, and I'll play "I'm on Fire." Zane Williams, Wilder Blue is the band, the album. Thanks so much for coming on.
Absolutely. My pleasure.